Welcome to From the South. I am Luis de Jesus from the Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. Let's take a look at our headlines. Tropical storm Laura has left Cuba after touching ground on Monday night in the west region of the island with winds of over 100 kilometers per hour. The U.S. Republican Party formally nominated President Donald Trump as its candidate for the November elections. And President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, has ordered the military to impose a strict control and supervision of military activities conducted by NATO troops in the neighboring countries. We begin right away. Stay with us. And Tropical Storm Laura has left Cuba after touching ground this Monday night in the west region of the island with winds of over 100 kilometers per hour. Laura moved through the west-northwest region of the Caribbean island on passing over the province of Pinar del Rio. Laura's maximum sustained winds increased to 105 kilometers per hour with higher gusts, which were also felt in the capital, Havana. Meanwhile, the government of Cuba has discontinued the tropical storm warning for the Ciego de Ávila and Santi Espíritus provinces. United States National Hurricane Center is forecasting the center of the Laura will move away from Cuba and over the southeastern Gulf of Mexico overnight. The now tropical storm could strengthen to a Category 3 hurricane, whipping winds of at least 111 miles per hour before it makes landfall, possibly on the Louisiana or Texas coast. And meanwhile, Tropical Storm Marco, which was declared a Category 1 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico on Sunday, has been downgraded to a tropical storm again, with sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Marco is expected to make landfall on the Louisiana coast late Monday into early Tuesday. The storm will likely bring heavy rain, gusty winds, and significant storm surge to parts of the Gulf Coast Monday. United States government decided to extradite the former paramilitary Salvatore Mancuso to Italy after the special peace jurisdiction had requested his extradition to Colombia. Mancuso completed the sentence imposed by the United States Justice in last March when he had to be extradited to Colombia at the request of the Colombian Prosecutor's Office and the Special Jurisdiction for Peace. Mancuso is involved in nearly 75,000 crimes, being key to the process of justice and reparation for the victims of the Colombian conflict. Italian justice requested Mancuso for an investigation by the police of Rome that links him to the businessman Giorgio Sale and the drug trafficking business of the Calabrian Mafia. And Colombian Senator Ivan Cepeda demanded the government to commit to the investigations into the case of Salvatore Mancuso on the occasion of the crimes committed by the paramilitarism.
We warned from the beginning of the extradition process with the departure of Salvatore Mancuso to the United States that a significant part of the truth for the victims was to be sacrificed. Today we demand the government to do everything necessary to obtain testimonies of Salvatore Mancuso on the political leaders of the crimes committed by paramilitarism.
And meanwhile, former chief negotiator of the government of former President Juan Manuel Santos, Humberto de la Calle, recognized the slowness and isolated effort in the fulfillment of the peace accords in the dialogues.
The spirit must be a constructive spirit, in some way taking some inspiration from the column of John Fernando Cristo today. I believe what we have to do is unlearn to hate and learn to listen and reflect. That is the meaning of such a broad bill at such significant conference that is being convened today and at an absolutely opportune time, addressing the complying of the agreement. I have traditionally been quite careful to say that there has been some progress in the area of reintegration. There are discrepancies about the figures. It has been said here that the compliance with the agreement is extremely slow. But beyond that, in the fiscal situation and what has happened, I would like to acknowledge that there is an effort here, but the problem with that effort is that it's very isolated.
And dozens of nurses protested in Panama's capital to call on the government to pay them back wages and provide medical staff with more personal protective equipment to treat COVID-19 patients as the country eased confinement measures and reopened some businesses. Nurses require quality personal protective equipment and pay back salaries. Health workers have recently staged protests over non-payment of back wages. The situation has forced the Minister of Health, Luis Francisco Sucre, to ask the Parliament for an additional $10 million for the payment of overtime wages due on the purchase of supplies. With 4 million inhabitants, Panama has the highest number of COVID-19 infections in the Central America region, with more than 61,000 infected and 1,892 deaths.
To the college who are on temporary contracts, who have been paid, pay them. We need supplies and many other things. It's not easy being a nurse or a patient, let alone being both situations. Being both a nurse and a patient is much more difficult.
Residents in the Paraguayan city of Limpio mobilized this Monday to protest environmental pollution caused by leather processing plant. Local residents took to the streets demanding Paraguayan authorities take action after months of complaints over the visible pollution in the CERRO lagoon, which has turned purple due to the waste being dumped from the plant. According to a study conducted by the National University Multidisciplinary Lab, the changes in the color of the water resulted from materials poured into the lake and that are commonly used in tanning leather. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Environment, together with the prosecutor's office, has announced an investigation to determine the causes of the environmental disaster that has killed fish, birds, and other local wildlife. And also, truck trade unions in Chile announced they will go on nationwide strike as they demand the enhancement of security and benefits to the transport sector, claiming an urgent response from the executive power and the Interior and Public Security Ministry as they face constant threats and violence from terrorist groups in the South American country without any protection from the authorities.
We have always said we were going to demonstrate. Then we said we were going to mobilize. This is a nationwide fallout strike. We won't transport 1 kilogram of sugar or rice. From Thursday, we want to ask forgiveness to the middle class and to all workers who might suffer with this measure. But the problem wasn't created by the truckers. It's being created by this absent government, which does nothing to protect us. Not just the truckers. All Chileans must be protected. What we want is an end to crime and an end to terrorism in southern Chile. We have told the President of the Republic today he can do it. The Constitution allows him. He signed and said he was going to enforce the Constitution when the President band was set up. The Constitution allows him to decree a state of siege when crime and terrorism are unsustainable, and has not done so. We call once and for all on the President to tie his pants tightly and apply the laws in force.
The Bolivian presidential candidate for the movement towards socialism, Luis Arce, has criticized the political and economic model promoted by the de facto authorities. Arce stressed that the policies of the de facto president and presidential candidate Yanine Áñez do not favor the majority of Bolivians. He also added that the de facto regime has weakened state institutions and the democratic system for the plurinational state. Meanwhile, the popular former Minister of Economy added that the other main presidential candidate, former President Carlos Mesa, does not constitute a real alternative. We'll go now to a short break. Follow us in Twitter at Telesur English and Luis Telesur. We'll be right back. The Republican Party formally nominated President Donald Trump for a second term in the White House on Monday, one of the first acts of its national convention, which has been dramatically scaled down due to the novel coronavirus. Trump has sought to minimize the toll of the pandemic, but its impact was evident as the event began in Charlotte. Instead of the thousands of people who were expected to converge on this city for the week-long event, just 336 delegates participated in a roll call vote from Charlotte Convention Center. The convention is a crucial moment for Trump, who is trailing in behind in polls and is under intense pressure to turn the presidential race around, according to a new poll from the Associated Press North Center for Public Affairs Research. Just 23% of the U.S. population thinks the country is heading in the right direction.
Sending them out to people that didn't ask for them. They didn't ask, they just get them. And it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not going to be possible to tap it.
And in a secretly recorded audio, President Donald Trump's sister criticized her brother for his lack of principles and assured he couldn't be trusted. Mary Ann Trump Berry, the eldest sister of the U.S. president, was recorded between 2018 and 2019 by Trump's niece, Mary Trump, who recently published a tell-all book about the president. In the recording, Berry criticizes Trump's immigration policies and his lack of preparation and lying. She also recalls learning that Trump suggested sending her to the U.S.-Mexico border to support his administration's policies. In the recording, she condemns what is being done with kids at the border. The audio recording is yet another in a spiral of revelations undermining the president in recent weeks. At a time, according to polls, he is behind his main rival, Joe Biden. And protests erupted in the U.S. city of Kenosha, Wisconsin state, after cell phone video footage show police shooting in a black man in back several times from close range as he got into a car on Sunday evening. The man, named as Jacob Blake by Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, was airlifted to a hospital in Milwaukee and was in serious condition. Governor Evers condemned the shooting in the back and in broad daylight on Twitter. He stressed that while the details were not yet available, we know for certain that Blake is not the first black man or person to have been shot, injured, or mercilessly killed at the hands of law enforcement officers in the state. The Kenosha police said the incident was being investigated. And Chinese app TikTok has filed a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing that the president's executive order against it is unconstitutional and it should be blocked from taking effect. The suit, which had been expected, claims that Trump's August 6 executive order declaring a national emergency that would effectively ban the video sharing app in the U.S. was taken without any opportunity for the company to be heard, allegedly violating its due process rights as guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. The Trump administration claims that TikTok's Beijing-based parent company, ByteDance, should share Americans' personal data with the Chinese government, something the White House considers a national security threat. Spanish health authorities reported over 2,000 new COVID-19 cases on Monday, while noting that drastic measures would have to be taken into the region if cases continue to climb there.
Durante todo el fin de semana, en los últimos 3 días,
in the last 3 days, we have recorded a total of 19,000 new cases, but the truth is that a lot of them are cases from before the weekend. On the last day, Sunday, we recorded with yesterday as the date of diagnosis 2,060 new cases. In the next days, the Madrid region will control transmission and it will probably stabilize and start to descend. How can we achieve this? Well, the Madrid region is applying measures of it, suggesting applying important measures that will progressively have an effect. If the cases keep rising in Madrid, we will need to take drastic measures. I don't know exactly if it will have to be a confinement, like in a village, where it is relatively easy to do it, or if it has to be another kind of measure related to the inside mobility of people without restricting the outside mobility. We will see which one will be adequate. I am sure that the Madrid region has all options on the table.
And the Italian city of Verona saw heavy rainfall on Sunday, quickly turning its streets into rivers. The regional government said the province was hit by a violent storm in an exceptional way. Bad weather struck several northern Italian regions on Sunday, with the heavy rain causing millions of euros in damages to crops, vineyards, and fields in Emilia-Romagna and Veneto, according to an association of agricultural businesses. President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, ordered the military to conduct strict control and supervision of military activities conducted by NATO troops in neighboring countries. President Lukashenko also called for the reinforcement of border defense in order to protect the country from external threats. A series of military drills have been conducted on the western border, and the Belarusian armed forces have announced a new set of mass maneuvers to run through the end of the month. Meanwhile, following military assessments, President Lukashenko has ordered to simplify the organization of border crossings to control any attempts at provocation or destabilization. And also, Belarusian authorities announced Monday that the country will be the first in the world to receive the Russian COVID-19 vaccine Sputnik 5 once available. The press office of Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko also announced that Belarusian citizens would voluntarily take part in phase 3 of clinical trials of the Russian vaccine candidate. The agreement was reached following a phone call between President Lukashenko and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, who also addressed the international situation in Belarus. Meanwhile, Russian officials have confirmed that mass vaccination could begin as early as October. And the Russian Direct Investment Fund announced that phase 3 of the Sputnik 5 clinical trials would start this week with the participation of over 40,000 people. Chief scientist at the World Health Organization, Soumya Swamy, confirmed that WHO officials are in dialogue with Russian authorities and have requested information on the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine candidate. Likewise, the official pointed out that the WHO welcomed the international initiative to develop a COVID-19 vaccine known as Solidarity Trial, while also noting the collaboration of Russian volunteers during phase 3 of clinical trials. Israeli military forces have been conducting airstrikes against the Gaza Strip for almost 2 weeks now, while also tightening the blockade. Israeli authorities have banned Gaza's fishermen from going to the sea and have closed goods crossing points, as well as cutting off fuel supplies, thus further worsening conditions for the population of 2 million in the occupied Palestinian territory. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo began an official visit to the occupied Palestinian city of Jerusalem this Monday, where he urged more Arab nations to restore relations with Israel, after the United Arab Emirates signed a deal to restore diplomatic ties. And meanwhile, Israeli authorities continue demolition activities in the Palestinian-occupied West Bank territories. The Palestinian Authority's Deputy Governor of Jerusalem, Abdullah Siam, noted that at least 18,000 Palestinian-owned houses in the occupied city are under threat of demolition by the Israeli regime, while stressing that the demolitions are another example of Israel's collective punishment and ethnic cleansing policy against Palestinians in the city. The U.S.-led military coalition in Iraq handed over the Camp Taji military base located 20 kilometers north of Iraq's capital, Baghdad, on Sunday, as part of a plan for the withdrawal of foreign troops stationed in the country. The coalition said in a statement that the base has historically held up to 2,000 coalition troops, most of whom have departed this summer. The remaining coalition troops are set to depart in the coming days after finalizing the handing over of equipment to Iraqi security forces. The move comes months after the Iraqi parliament approved a resolution to end the presence of foreign troops in the country following the killing of Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani by a drone strike early this year. Palestinian authorities have announced a 48-hour curfew in the Gaza Strip after 4 COVID-19 cases were confirmed in a refuge camp, representing the first cases outside of quarantine facilities.
We announced that we recorded the first cases of new COVID-19 infection inside the Gaza Strip. They are from 4 members of one family, 3 males and a woman, who were not quarantined from a Gaza camp in the Central Governorate. We are imposing a complete curfew on all governorates of the Gaza Strip, including suspending working and non-working hours in all facilities for a period of 48 hours, starting tonight, including official and private workplaces and schools. We are closing mosques, markets, wedding halls and clubs, and preventing gatherings.
Nigeria's health authorities confirmed 321 new COVID-19 cases on Monday, bringing the total number to over 52,500. The city of Lagos with 98 of the new cases, the Federal Capital Territory with 34 new cases, and Kaduna with 30 cases are the most affected areas in the country. The total number of recoveries stands at more than 39,000, while the death toll is just over 1,000. Meanwhile, Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Aikin Abayomi, has tested positive for the virus and is set to observe a home quarantine for 14 days. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember that you can find this and many other stories at our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis de Jesus. Thank you for watching.